The battlefield was silent, except for the wind whistling through the shattered towers and broken machinery. Smoke rose in thin spirals from the scorched ground, and the smell of burnt metal hung heavy in the air. Commander Elias stood at the edge of the crater, his boots crunching on broken glass and alien debris. His team moved cautiously behind him, scanning the ruins for survivors, weapons, or anything that could explain the strange reports they had received. The reports had been confusing. Sensors picked up movement long after the battle should have ended. Enemy signals suggested the aliens had withdrawn, yet there was evidence of recent combat. Someone, or something, had survived. Elias's heart thumped in his chest. A human soldier alone in the middle of a battlefield like this was almost impossible. "Over there," one of the team members said, pointing toward a twisted pile of armored vehicles. Smoke drifted upward in small puffs, and sparks flickered from broken engines. Amid the wreckage, a lone figure stood. The armor glinted in the fading sunlight, dented and scorched, but still whole. The figure did not move, even as the human team approached. Elias signaled his team to stop. He raised his voice carefully. "Are you hurt?" His words sounded small in the vast emptiness. He stepped closer, hoping for some answer. The figure shifted slightly, but said nothing. The helmet's visor reflected the setting sun, hiding any hint of a face. Elias's stomach tightened. This was no ordinary human armor. It was massive, reinforced, and marked with strange symbols that seemed more alien than human. Whoever, or whatever, was inside had survived direct hits from heavy weapons. Elias stepped even closer. "Are you hurt?" His voice carried a hint of urgency now. He wanted to see if this soldier needed help, but also to confirm what he feared, that the reports were true. The figure slowly reached up. With deliberate movements, it removed the helmet. Hair fell in dark waves around a face that was calm, almost serene, despite the battlefield around her. Eyes focused and unyielding, they scanned Elias and the team. "Do I look hurt to you?" she said. Her voice was steady, low, and carried a weight of authority that made everyone pause. Shock rippled through the team. The soldier standing before them was human, a woman, and yet she radiated a presence that made them instinctively step back. Her armor was battered, scratched, and scorched, but she stood tall and unbroken. Elias took a cautious step forward. "Captain Hayes?" She nodded once, slowly. "Yes." Captain Mara Hayes. The team stared at her in disbelief. One human had held this position alone. The enemy had tried everything to bring her down. Missiles, plasma blasts, armored walkers. But she had survived. Not just survived, she had won. "How? How did you survive?" one soldier finally managed to ask. She glanced down at the armor, then back up at Elias. Survive? That wasn't the point. Holding this line was the point. Others depended on it. I didn't think about surviving. I thought about finishing the fight. Elias swallowed. He had faced many human soldiers in training and battle, but he had never seen someone move with such precision, such focus, while completely alone. Mara's presence filled the crater with a quiet intensity. Her armor, once a tool for protection, now seemed like a second skin that reflected her determination. The team moved closer to assess the battlefield. Crumpled enemy walkers lay scattered across the field, their metal frames twisted and smoldering. Broken weapons and alien technology littered the ground. Sensors picked up faint life signs, but nothing significant. It was clear the aliens had fled, leaving behind only the traces of their failed assault. Mary began to inspect the wreckage, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. She retrieved a small device from her belt and scanned the area. "We're clear," she said, "for now. But they'll be back, and next time it will be worse." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had expected reports of survivors, maybe scattered units, but a single human holding an entire line alone was beyond comprehension.
"How long were you out here?" he asked. "Long enough to learn they underestimate humans," Mara replied.
Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried a fire that seemed to burn brighter than any weapon. Long enough to make sure they remember it. The team helped her remove the rest of her armor, piece by piece. Beneath the metal plating, she was just as human as they were, scratched, bruised, and tired, but still unbroken. Every mark on her armor told a story of resistance and determination. One of the soldiers, younger than the rest, could not hold back his admiration. "Captain, you were completely alone. How did you keep going?" Mara paused, looking at him with steady eyes. "When others depend on you, you don't stop. You don't think about fear or pain. You think about them. That's what it means to be human."
Elias felt a chill run down his spine. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was enormous.
Humanity had survived countless wars, countless threats, not because they were the strongest, but because they refused to give up. Mara was the living embodiment of that spirit. The sound of distant engines interrupted the moment. Elias tensed. The alien fleet had retreated, but the battle was far from over. Mara's eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. "They'll be back," she said again. "And when they come, they'll find that one human can make them rethink everything they thought they knew." Elias realized that she was not just a soldier. She was a symbol, a warning, a reminder that humans were not weak, not even when outnumbered or outgunned. And Mara Hayes was the proof. As the team gathered around her, she gave concise instructions. "We salvage what we can.
We prepare defenses. We make sure the next attack will cost them more than they are willing to pay."
Her tone brooked no argument. The team moved quickly, following her orders with the precision of a well-trained unit, but with the awe of those who had just witnessed something extraordinary. Elias stayed close, watching her work. He had fought many battles, but he had never felt the presence of someone so unstoppable. He realized that survival on the battlefield was not just about weapons or armor. It was about heart, determination, and the refusal to yield. By the time night fell, the battlefield was quiet again. Fires burned in the distance, casting flickering light across twisted metal and scorched earth. Mara stood on a small rise, looking out over the horizon. Her armor was dented, scratched, and scorched, but her posture was unbroken. Elias approached her one last time before they returned to base. "Captain, are you hurt?" he asked quietly. Mara smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly, and repeated her words from earlier. "Do I look hurt to you?" Elias shook his head, knowing the answer. She wasn't hurt, not in the way that mattered. She was human, and more than that, she was unyielding. The story of this battlefield would spread across human space, inspiring soldiers and civilians alike. Mara Hayes would become more than a captain. She would become a legend. And for Elias, witnessing it all firsthand, the lesson was clear. Humans were never to be underestimated. Even alone, they could stand where others fell. Even wounded, they could fight where others would surrender. And even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could rise, unbroken, ready to face whatever came next. The wind whistled through the ruins once more, carrying the echoes of battle and the promise of resilience. Mara removed her remaining pieces of armor and stood in the quiet night, looking up at the stars. She did not flinch. She did not bow. She only stood, waiting for the next challenge, because humans did not need to look unhurt to be unstoppable. They just needed to stand. Far above the battlefield, in the cold vacuum of space, the alien fleet regrouped. Their ships hovered like dark shapes against the stars, their hulls shimmering faintly under distant suns. The alien commanders gathered around their central command vessel, a massive structure covered with jagged armor and thrumming with alien energy. Panic and disbelief had replaced the usual confidence of their strategists. "Reports are confirmed!" one of the alien officers hissed, its voice crackling through the alien translator. The human survived. Alone. Against overwhelming force, the lead commander, a towering being with 4 glowing eyes and armored scales, slammed one claw against the command console. "Impossible," it shouted. Its voice carried a metallic resonance that shook the walls of the bridge. Sensors showed destruction. The battlefield should have been clear. Yet, one human remains. The other officers exchanged uneasy glances. They were not accustomed to underestimating humans. Across the galaxy, humans were considered dangerous, yes, but always weak in comparison to the alien armadas. This human, however, had shattered every assumption. "They are stronger than their technology suggests," another officer said cautiously. "They continue to fight even when their armor is destroyed. Their tactics unpredictable. Their endurance unusual." The commander's eyes glowed brighter. "We cannot ignore this. One human alone has defeated a squadron of our walkers. Their resilience, it is beyond reason." Meanwhile, back on the planet below, Mara Hayes surveyed the ruins with a measured calm. Her armor had been removed, leaving her bruised but steady, and she moved through the battlefield as if the devastation around her was just another obstacle. Every fallen machine, every scorch mark, every twisted piece of metal told her a story of survival. Elias stood nearby, observing her. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you keep going when everything is against you?" Mara paused, resting a hand on a broken weapon.
"Humans fight differently," she said quietly. "We don't just react."
"We endure. We adapt. We never quit, because quitting leaves others vulnerable. Fear and pain exist, but they are tools, not shackles." Elias watched her carefully. He had seen courage before, but Mara's presence carried a weight that inspired and unsettled him at the same time. There was no hesitation in her movements, no doubt in her mind. It was as if she had become a part of the battlefield itself. Far above, the alien fleet recalculated. Command simulations ran endlessly, trying to account for the anomaly of Mara Hayes. Each scenario ended with the same result. The human survived, again and again, against all odds. Their data could not explain her. Their weapons could not contain her. Their tactics could not predict her. "This species," the lead commander said slowly, "is unyielding. They fight harder when wounded, and they inspire their own kind. Perhaps we have underestimated them." The words hung heavy in the command room. Alien officers whispered to one another, their fear growing. To face an enemy that did not submit, that did not break, was a new experience for them. They had fought countless species, destroyed countless civilizations. But this was something different. Back on the planet, Mara and Elias began to assess the damage. The ground was littered with alien debris, smoking ruins of their machines, and scattered weapons. Mara moved methodically, scanning each area for survivors and functional technology that could be repurposed. Elias couldn't help but notice how calm she remained. Even when the alien walkers had fired upon her directly, even when she had been trapped with no backup, she had not faltered. She had fought alone and emerged victorious.
"I don't understand how you did it," he admitted.
"You don't need to understand," Mara said, turning to face him. "You just need to remember it. Humans don't survive because we are invincible. We survive because we refuse to stop. Even when the odds are against us, we endure. Even when everything is broken, we fight. That is our strength." Elias nodded slowly, realizing the truth in her words. This was not about armor, weapons, or strategy. It was about spirit, determination, and the will to continue when all else had failed. Above, the alien commander made a decision. "Prepare the next assault," it said, its 4 eyes narrowing. "We cannot allow this human to stand unchallenged. Deploy the fleet. Crush them. Leave nothing behind." "The other officers hesitated. "But, Commander," one said, "the last engagement cost us heavily. 1 human alone." "I do not care," the commander snapped. "They will pay for their defiance. Humanity will learn fear. We will ensure it." Meanwhile, Mara and her team worked through the night. They salvaged weapons, repaired damaged machinery, and reinforced defensive positions. She moved among them, guiding each person with quiet authority. Her presence inspired confidence. They trusted her, not just because of her skill, but because of the unwavering determination she demonstrated. As the night grew colder, Mara finally allowed herself a brief moment of rest. She sat on the edge of a scorched tank, brushing dirt and ash from her hands. Elias joined her, carrying a small ration pack. "You didn't rest earlier," he noted.
"You should at least eat." "I am not finished," she replied. "Rest can wait."
"The enemy will return, and when they do, we must be ready. Our survival depends on it." Elias sighed, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity had faced countless threats before, but Mara's actions had reminded him of what made them unique. Strength was not measured in numbers, weapons, or armor. It was measured in courage, resilience, and the refusal to surrender. Above, the alien fleet continued to monitor the planet. Mara Hayes' actions had spread through their communications and scans, reaching every ship in the Armada. Fear was taking root. They had expected humans to retreat, to hide, to surrender. But this human had defied every expectation. "She is extraordinary," one alien officer whispered, almost in awe. The commander's eyes flared. "Extraordinary or not, she is human, and humans are mortal. We will adapt. We will overcome. Send reconnaissance units! Study her tactics! Learn from her weaknesses. She will not survive the next assault." Back on the planet, Mara moved through the ruins, checking on her team. Injuries were treated with makeshift medical equipment, and morale was high despite the devastation. She spoke with each soldier, offering encouragement, guidance, and sometimes silence when words were not needed. Her example alone was enough to keep them motivated. Elias watched as she worked, noting the way her presence calmed fear and inspired action. Even when she was exhausted, she moved with purpose, her mind always several steps ahead. She was more than a soldier. She was a leader, a symbol, and a reminder of what humans could achieve when they refused to yield.
As dawn approached, Mara stood on a small rise overlooking the battlefield.
Smoke still rose from the wreckage, and the first light of the sun glinted off her armor, now patched and repaired in places. She did not flinch, did not bow, did not hesitate. Her eyes scanned the horizon, anticipating the inevitable return of the alien fleet. Elias approached her quietly. "They will come back," he said softly. "I know," Mara replied. Her voice was steady, calm, and unwavering. "And we will be ready. Humans survive because we endure. We fight because we must. We stand because we cannot fall alone." Far above, the alien commander's fleet began preparations for the next attack. Every ship readied weapons, every officer studied battle plans, and every sensor searched for the human who had defied them. Mara Hayes had become a legend in their eyes, a single human capable of inspiring fear across an entire armada. But Mara did not think of legend or fear. She thought of the battlefield, her team, and the responsibility she carried. Humans could endure, adapt, and survive, but only if they stood together. Her task was clear: prepare, defend, and inspire. And when the enemy returned, she would ensure that they understood why humans were never to be underestimated. Night faded completely, and the first birds, small creatures surviving in the harsh terrain, began to stir. Mara observed them briefly, a small smile forming on her lips. Even in a world of destruction and war, Life found a way to continue, and so would humans. Elias finally understood what he had been witnessing. The alien fleet could study tactics, develop weapons, and deploy massive forces, but they could never replicate the human spirit. One human soldier with courage, determination, and unyielding will could defy expectation and inspire hope across an entire planet. Mara Hayes was living proof. As the sun rose, casting golden light over the battlefield, Mara prepared her team for the inevitable. Weapons were checked, defensive positions reinforced, and every soldier knew their role. Her calm, unwavering presence made them stronger than any armor or weapon. Above, the alien fleet loomed, their sensors scanning for the human who had survived alone. They would strike soon. Mara would be ready. Humanity would endure. And Mara Hayes, standing tall and unbroken, would once again prove that one human could make a difference that no fleet, no weapon, and no army could ignore. The first rays of dawn spread across the ruined landscape, painting the scorched earth in shades of gold and red. Mara Hayes moved among the soldiers and engineers with calm authority, her every step purposeful. The previous battle had left its marks: twisted metal, scorched vehicles, and the occasional crater. But it had also left something more important: the belief that humans could endure what no one else could. Elias walked beside her, carrying a datapad filled with reconnaissance reports from orbit. "The aliens aren't just regrouping," he said. "They're studying the planet, scanning every human settlement. They'll hit where we're weakest first." Mara nodded without stopping. "Good. Let them look for weakness. They won't find any they can exploit. Humans do not break easily, and the ones who survive, we adapt." The team worked tirelessly. Engineers scavenged broken alien machines, repurposing damaged weapons and shielding into defensive structures. Medical teams treated injuries with what little supplies they had, improvising with ingenuity that surprised even Elias. Mara moved among them, offering guidance, reassurance, and at times, silent acknowledgement. Her presence alone inspired confidence. The aliens, far above the planet, were recalculating. Their simulations now included human psychology, predicting responses, endurance, and tactics. But Mara Hayes had already invalidated every assumption. Each scenario they ran ended in failure, each outcome more costly than the last. The commander's 4 glowing eyes narrowed. One human had forced them to reconsider the entire approach. Back on the planet, Mara had gathered her team for a briefing. Maps were spread across a flat piece of metal, showing the locations of alien patrols, landing zones, and potential attack routes. Elias pointed to one area. "This valley is unprotected. If they land here, they could flank our defenses." Mara shook her head.
They will not. Not while humans are prepared.
"We control the terrain. We know every path, every ridge, every canyon. They think numbers give them power. We know the truth. Numbers alone cannot win against determination." A young soldier, barely out of training, raised a hand. "Captain, how can one person, one human, make a difference against their fleet?" Mara looked directly at him. Her eyes burned with intensity, but her voice was calm. "One human can make a difference, because humans do not give up. One human can inspire thousands. One human can show the enemy that no matter how many they bring, we will stand. That is what I did, and that is what we will do together." The soldiers exchanged looks, understanding dawning on them. The coming battle would not be won by fear, not by advanced weapons alone, but by will, unity, and courage. Mara had already demonstrated that to every human who had seen her fight. Now, she would ensure the rest understood it too. As preparations continued, Mara visited each defensive position. At one ridge, a team had erected makeshift barriers from wreckage and reinforced them with energy shields scavenged from alien devices. Mara inspected the construction, offering a single adjustment to improve stability. At another site, medical personnel treated wounded civilians who had volunteered to help. Mara moved silently among them, ensuring that, No one felt overlooked. Elias observed her and thought of the previous battle. One human alone had held an entire line. Now, she was preparing a whole planet to do the same. The magnitude of her presence was astonishing. It was not just her skill in combat. It was her unwavering focus, her refusal to let anyone give up, and her ability to instill hope in others that made her extraordinary. Far above, the alien fleet deployed reconnaissance drones to map the planet's defenses. Mara's team anticipated their arrival, setting traps and countermeasures that demonstrated both tactical brilliance and adaptability. The aliens expected predictable patterns, but humans rarely acted as expected. The drones were intercepted, disabled, or misdirected, feeding false information back to the alien commanders. "Every action counts," Mara reminded her team. Even the smallest move can change the course of battle. We prepare, we observe, we adapt. That is how humans win. The aliens, frustrated, intensified their study. Reports of Mara Hayes' previous battle had spread across the Armada. Her name became a symbol, whispered in fear and awe. The commander's strategy sessions grew tense, as each suggestion was dismissed in favor of caution. Their previous arrogance had been shattered. One human had made them reconsider everything. Back on the planet, Mara's team worked through the night. Fires from previous skirmishes burned low, casting flickering shadows over the soldiers and engineers. Mara herself finally took a brief pause, sitting against a rock with her armor partially repaired. Elias joined her, offering a small ration. "You've hardly eaten," he said.
"I've had enough for now," she replied. "The real challenge is coming."
"Rest is for after the fight, not before." Elias shook his head, impressed and concerned. "How do you stay so focused?"
Mara looked up at the stars.
"Because focus is what separates survival from defeat. Because fear is a tool, not a weapon. Because humans endure, and I will not let anyone give up while I am standing." The first light of the alien fleet appeared over the horizon, tiny specks in the sky at first, growing larger as they approached. Mara rose to her feet, her repaired armor glinting in the sun. Soldiers snapped to attention at her signal, weapons ready, minds sharp. "Remember," she said, addressing the gathered humans, "they have numbers. They have technology. But we have courage, determination, and each other. They cannot predict what humans are capable of when we fight together. We will not yield. We will not break. And when they see one human standing against them, they will understand the cost of underestimating us." The aliens had deployed smaller scout ships first, testing defenses. Mara anticipated every maneuver, coordinating human responses with precision. They intercepted the scouts, disabling them without significant loss. The soldiers began to see the truth. No matter the enemy, no matter the technology, humans could respond intelligently, efficiently, and fearlessly. Elias watched Mara coordinate the defenses, his respect growing with every command. "She's remarkable," he whispered to another officer. "One person. She inspires an entire planet to fight like nothing I've ever seen." The other officer nodded. "It's not just her skill. It's her spirit. She reminds us why humans survive when all odds are against them." As the alien scouts were repelled, the main fleet began its approach. Shadows grew on the horizon, darkening the sky. Mara's team held their positions, ready for the coming storm. She walked among them, checking weapons, offering quiet encouragement, ensuring that every soldier, engineer, and medic knew their role. The aliens expected panic, disorganization, and fear. They were met instead with calm, precision, and unity. Mara had taken the lesson of the previous battle. One human, holding a line, and multiplied it across an entire force. Every soldier stood stronger because they believed in her example. When the first attack wave struck, it was met with careful preparation, clever traps, and relentless resistance. Mara moved through the battlefield, directing soldiers, patching gaps, and intervening where she was most needed. She was everywhere at once, a symbol, a leader, and a force to be reckoned with. The aliens were stunned. Their numerical advantage meant little against humans who fought with intelligence, adaptation, and determination. Mara Hayes' tactics, combined with her example of endurance, turned the battlefield into a place of human dominance. Each soldier who followed her moved with confidence, knowing that if one human could survive and fight alone, together they were unstoppable. The battle raged, but every setback was met with innovation. Broken weapons were repurposed, injuries were treated on the move, and soldiers inspired one another. Mara's calm authority and unwavering focus guided them, ensuring that no one faltered, no one gave up. Above, the alien fleet faltered, surprised at the human resistance. Every attempt to break the lines was countered. Every strategy they deployed was anticipated, redirected, or neutralized. Mara Hayes had become more than a soldier. She was a symbol of humanity's strength, courage, and unyielding spirit. As the sun reached its peak, the battle slowed. The alien fleet retreated temporarily, assessing the unexpected resistance. Mara's soldiers held their ground, exhausted but unbroken. She moved among them, acknowledging their courage, repairing morale, and preparing for the next wave. Elias approached her, awe evident in his expression. "Captain, they underestimated us. Again." Mara smiled faintly. "They always do, and we always endure. That is what it means to be human. That is how we survive. That is how we win." The battlefield, once a place of fear and destruction, now stood as a testament to human resilience. Mara Hayes had proven that courage, determination, and unity could turn even the direst situation into a victory. And as the alien fleet regrouped far above, they would carry the same lesson Mara had embodied alone before. Humans do not break. Humans endure. Humans stand, even when the odds seem impossible. The coming battles would test them further. But Mara and her soldiers were ready. Humanity had learned from one human, standing alone. Now, they would show the galaxy what they could achieve together. The sky above the planet darkened as the alien fleet approached, massive and silent, their shadows stretching across the mountains and valleys below. Mara Hayes stood on the ridge, her armor patched but dented, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Her soldiers were ready, positions fortified, weapons loaded, and minds sharp. Every human on the field had seen what one human could do, and now carried that courage with them. Elias approached quietly. "They're coming, Captain! This is it!" Mara didn't flinch. She scanned the incoming fleet, noting each formation, every landing zone, every potential weak point. Her mind worked like a machine, calculating, predicting, adapting. "Then we fight," she said simply. "Not just to survive, but to show them who we are." Humans do not break. Humans endure. Humans stand. The first wave of alien ships descended, firing plasma disruptors and kinetic shells. Mara's team responded instantly, using barricades, improvised energy shields, and rapid counterattacks. Explosions rocked the valley, but no one faltered. Mara moved among her soldiers, guiding them, patching gaps, and intercepting any breach before it could grow. Elias watched in awe as she directed every move with calm precision. "She's everywhere at once," he whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." One of the younger soldiers fired a pulse rifle at an approaching alien mech. The shot hit, causing sparks to fly, but the mech continued to advance. The soldier froze, fear creeping in. But Mara was there in an instant. She moved with fluid speed, jumping onto the mech, disabling it with a combination of explosives and precise strikes. The soldier's fear turned to awe. "Do you see?" Mara said quietly, standing among them. "We fight because we can. We fight because we must. And when we do it together, Nothing can stop us. The aliens, above in their command ships, were growing frustrated. Every assault was repelled, every strategy countered. Their simulations had failed to account for human adaptability, and Mara Hayes had become more than a soldier to them. She was a force, a symbol of human resilience. "Target the human leader," the alien commander ordered. "Crush her, and the rest will fall." The alien forces concentrated on Mara. Swarms of smaller ships dove toward her position while massive walkers advanced across the battlefield. Mara did not hesitate. She coordinated human defenses with a skill born of experience and instinct. Soldiers fired from fortified positions, engineers triggered traps, and medics ensured that no one succumbed to injury or fear. Mara moved like a shadow, striking with precision, disabling alien machines, guiding soldiers, and always staying one step ahead. Each time the aliens thought they had found a weakness, she was already there, closing it before it could grow. Elias ran alongside her, keeping pace despite the chaos. "Captain, they're focusing everything on you," he shouted over the noise of battle. Mara's eyes did not leave the enemy. "Then let them," she said calmly. "I am not alone. Every human here fights with me. If they fall, we adapt. If we are wounded, we endure." "Do you see how humans survive?" The alien commander's fleet faltered as reports came in. Every attack was met with resistance, and human ingenuity was turning the battlefield into a nightmare for the invaders. One human had already survived alone, but now an entire force inspired by that example was making them reconsider the cost of their assault. On the ground, soldiers moved with confidence. Every maneuver Mara had taught them, every lesson she had instilled, was being applied. Traps disabled alien walkers. Improvised shields protected against plasma fire, and human marksmen picked off critical targets. Mara herself was relentless, moving across the battlefield with calm determination, her repaired armor bearing every scar of the previous battles. An alien landing craft descended near a group of human soldiers. Panic began to spread, but Mara reached them first, issuing precise commands. They moved as one, coordinating fire and movement, turning the ambush into a trap. When the alien soldiers realized they had walked into a kill zone, it was too late. Every attack they made was met with human ingenuity and unyielding courage. Elias watched the battle unfold and felt a sense of pride and awe. "She's showing them exactly why humans survive," he said. As the battle reached its peak, Mara faced a massive alien walker advancing directly at the human command post. Soldiers fired from every angle, but the walker pressed on, its shields nearly impenetrable. Mara assessed the situation and acted. She sprinted across the open battlefield, leaping onto the machine, planting a series of explosives on its vulnerable joints. The walker roared and fell in a shower of sparks and smoke, the ground shaking beneath its collapse. Her soldiers cheered, but Mara did not pause. She moved to the next threat, always scanning, always adapting. She was the living embodiment of human resilience, undaunted, unyielding, and unstoppable. Above, the alien commander realized the truth. Mara Hayes was not just a threat. She was the heart of the human defense. Every attack she survived, every move she made was a lesson to the fleet. Humans were not predictable. Humans could endure unimaginable pressure. Humans did not break, and they did not surrender. "Withdraw," the commander ordered reluctantly. "The cost is too high." "Humanity is formidable." The alien fleet began to retreat, leaving behind only scattered scouts and disabled machines. Mara's soldiers held their ground, watching the invaders disappear into the void of space. Cheers erupted across the battlefield, but Mara did not immediately celebrate. She walked among her team, ensuring everyone was safe, injuries treated, and morale intact. Elias finally approached her, exhausted but smiling. "Captain!" They retreated. They actually left. Mara turned to him, her face calm, her eyes still sharp with focus. Of course they did. Humans fight with heart, determination, and unity. They underestimated what we are capable of. And now they know. That is how humans survive. The soldiers began to repair defenses and recover equipment, but the lesson of the battle was clear. One human had survived alone. Now, inspired by that example, an entire force had defended a planet against an overwhelming alien fleet. Mara's leadership, courage, and unyielding spirit had turned the tide. As night fell, Mara removed her armor completely, revealing bruises and scratches across her skin. But her posture remained unbroken. She surveyed the battlefield, every destroyed walker, every recovered weapon, every human soldier standing tall. They had endured. They had fought. They had won. Elias approached one last time.
Captain, are you hurt? Mara smiled faintly, a small glimmer of humor in her eyes.
Do I look hurt to you? Elias shook his head, smiling in awe. No.
You look unstoppable.
Mara laughed softly, not from pride, but from the understanding that the battle was only part of a larger war. Humanity would face challenges again. Other enemies. Other threats. But they had proven, once and for all, that humans endure, humans fight, and humans stand unbroken. The battlefield, once a place of fear and destruction, now stood as a monument to resilience, courage, and determination. Mara Hayes had become more than a captain. She had become a symbol. A single human had changed the way an entire alien fleet perceived humanity. One human had shown that courage could inspire thousands. One human had turned the impossible into the achievable. Above, the stars shone quietly, indifferent to the chaos below. But Mara's presence had left its mark. Every human soldier on the battlefield knew that their strength was not in technology or numbers alone. It was in their hearts, their determination, and the refusal to yield. As the soldiers rested and the fires of battle smoldered, Mara began inspecting her team, checking on each soldier, each medic, each engineer. She ensured no one was overlooked, no one forgotten. Her calm authority turned exhaustion into focus, fear into confidence, and uncertainty into action. Elias stood beside her, watching the scene unfold. "Captain, you've done more than survive. You've inspired a planet." Mara looked at him, eyes steady, voice quiet but firm. Humans do not survive because one person is invincible. Humans survive because we inspire each other. We endure together, we fight together. And when we stand together, nothing can break us. That is why we endure. That is why we fight. That is why we stand. The alien fleet would retreat, but the lesson they had learned would remain. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. Humans fought harder when the odds were against them. Humans adapted, endured, and survived. Humans stood when others would fall, and Mara Hayes, standing tall amidst the wreckage, battered but unbowed, had proven the ultimate truth. One human could survive alone. An entire people, united, could defy any enemy. The stars above the planet twinkled, as though acknowledging the resilience below. Mara gazed upward for a moment, then turned back to her soldiers. She knew this victory was only one of many to come. The war was far from over, but humanity had shown its heart. And as she began organizing the recovery, the repairs, and the defenses for the future, she smiled faintly, knowing the truth that had guided her all along. Humans did not need to look unhurt to be unstoppable. They only needed to stand.